Have you ever felt anger rise from just a single careless comment? Have you ever let someone's behavior pull you out of your calm? You're not alone. But that also means you have the power to step out of that cycle. Stoic philosophy doesn't teach you to erase your emotions. It teaches you to own them. And in this video, you'll learn 11 simple but powerful principles to take control of your anger the moment it begins. No yelling. No running away. Just a shift in perspective and mastery over your inner world. Lesson 1. Let go of the need to control. Have you ever felt frustrated because someone didn't behave the way they should? You made plans, put in the effort, then someone came along and ruined it. You sent a message, expecting a quick reply, but it never came. Most of your frustration and anger comes down to one core issue. You're trying to control what's outside your control. It's one of the most common mistakes, and one of the hardest habits to break. Expecting others to live by your standards. But here's the truth. You can't control other people. You can't control what they say, how they feel, or how they act. You can only control one thing, your own response. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who lived on both the political battlefield and the battlefield within, once said, "Many things can go wrong. But how you respond is always your choice." This isn't just theory. It's a strategy for living. Stoic philosophy calls it premeditatio malorum. The practice of imagining what could go wrong. Not to worry, but to prepare. Not to be negative, but to stay grounded when life doesn't go as planned. Got a meeting with your boss? Imagine it might be tense. Heading into a conversation with a client? Accept ahead of time that they may push back, delay, or disapprove. So when it happens, you don't explode. You don't freeze. You've already prepared, and you respond like someone who's in command of himself. Key takeaway. Anger doesn't come from events. It comes from expectations. When you stop trying to control others, you begin to take control of yourself. And when you do that, no one can take your peace from you. Today, take a moment to reflect on a situation where you wanted to control the outcome. Then ask, what can I actually control here? If the answer is only your response, then that's where your power begins. Lesson 2. Take responsibility for your own emotions. Have you ever said, "They made me angry"? Or, "I was calm until he said that"? We often hand over responsibility for our emotions, as if someone else holds the remote control to our inner state. But here's the truth. No one can make you angry, hurt, or insecure unless you allow it. You can't control what people say. You can't control rudeness, carelessness, or coldness. But you can always control one thing: how you respond to it all. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Anger is a choice, even if it comes quickly, almost instinctively. But once you realize that, you reclaim your authority. Say someone criticizes you in public. Your first instinct might be to snap back, shut down, or walk away. But if you pause, just for a moment, and ask, does their behavior really deserve to disrupt my calm? Is my inner balance worth trading over one careless remark? More often than not, the answer is, it's not worth it. When you take ownership of your emotions, you stop being a victim. You no longer rely on others to behave right so you can feel okay. You create your own peace by choosing your response intentionally. Stoic practice. Start keeping a daily emotional journal. At the end of each day, write down one situation where you reacted strongly and ask, what truly triggered my reaction? Was that the best possible response? If it happened again, could I respond differently? Just 5 minutes a day, and you'll begin building true self-control. Key takeaway. People may provoke, offend, or annoy you. But you decide. How will I respond? What will I hold on to, and what will I release? Next time you feel anger rising, Don't act right away. Just step back for a second and ask, do I want to keep this feeling or let it pass? That decision is yours. And it's something you can start practicing today. Lesson 3. Embrace imperfection. Have you ever felt irritated just because someone made a small mistake? Have you ever overreacted when things didn't go exactly as planned? That tension, frustration, or flash of anger in moments like these is all too common, especially for men who set high expectations for themselves, their performance, and their outcomes. But here's something to remember: perfection is an illusion, and clinging to it is the quickest path to disappointment. Stoicism doesn't teach you to do everything perfectly. It teaches you to do your best, then accept the rest with calm. We live in a world that constantly sells us the idea of perfection. Flawless success, flawless skill, flawless behavior. A life that runs like a script, both personally and professionally. So when reality doesn't match that script, you get angry. Not because it's wrong, but because you didn't allow room for mistakes. And that's the real problem. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things." When someone messes up, the issue isn't the mistake. The issue is that you didn't allow them the space to be human. When you mess up, the pain often comes not from the mistake itself, but from shame, self-blame, and unrealistic expectations you've placed on yourself. If you truly live by Stoic principles, then you need to let go of the idea that everything must go right for you to be at peace. Start with one simple belief: humans are imperfect. You, me, everyone, we will all mess up, act out, or make thoughtless decisions sometimes. If you don't accept that, you'll be disappointed daily. If you do, you'll feel lighter. Not because you excuse bad behavior, but because you realize most things you're angry about aren't as serious as they seem. Example: someone shows up 15 minutes late. Your plans get thrown off. Your usual reaction might be irritation, assuming they don't respect you. But a more stoic response would be, "He's human, and humans make mistakes. I can still respond calmly, reset boundaries if needed, but I don't have to lose my peace over 15 minutes. Accepting imperfection isn't weakness. It's mental flexibility, and it will take you farther in relationships, work, and personal growth than any strict standard ever could. Stoic practice. Write down 3 recent moments where you felt upset because someone didn't meet your idea of perfect. Then ask yourself, what was I expecting? What can I release from that expectation? Am I blowing this out of proportion because I'm clinging to perfection? Just a few lines each day, and you'll start to realize. You're not angry at a person, you're angry at an unrealistic standard. Key takeaway. Perfection isn't a requirement, it's a burden. When you set it down, you open the door to understanding, adaptability, and most importantly, emotional freedom. Next time you see someone make a mistake, pause for just a second. Ask yourself, am I reacting to the real person in front of me? Or to the ideal version of them I created in my head? That answer will determine whether you keep your calm or lose it over something that was never worth it in the first place. Lesson 4. Choose understanding over anger. Have you ever felt angry because someone treated you poorly? Maybe it was someone interrupting you in a meeting. An ex saying something cruel. A stranger being rude on social media. And instantly, the emotions rise: irritation, offense, the urge to strike back. That reaction is instinctive. But you're not here to live on instinct. You're here to build mastery. And at this point, understanding becomes the most powerful tool to disarm anger at its root. Stoicism doesn't ask you to excuse everything. But it does ask you to remember this: everyone is fighting a battle in their own life, even if you can't see it. When someone behaves badly, the first thing you can do is pause and ask a simple question. What might this person be going through that's causing them to act this way? It may sound gentle, but in truth, it requires deep inner strength. Because it demands that you don't react. It demands that you shut off the reflex to fight and shift into calm observation. Someone is short with their words? Maybe they just got chewed out by their boss. A server ignores you at a restaurant? Maybe they're working through physical pain. A partner suddenly grows distant? Maybe they're battling a fear you know nothing about. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When someone acts wrongly, don't ask, 'Why did they do that?' Ask, 'How can I respond rightly to this?'" That's the mindset of someone who's risen above impulse and chosen to live by principle. You may never know the full story, but you can always choose to assume something kind. To view others with compassion instead of reacting out of defense. This not only helps you manage your own anger, it allows you to become the kind of person who changes the energy in the room. The one who carries calm. Who understands the world. Who leads with quiet strength. And most importantly, you don't lose yourself just because someone else isn't acting right. Stoic practice. For the next 7 days, anytime someone frustrates you, before reacting, write down one possibility. What might they be going through? Even if you don't know whether it's true, just the act of pausing to think this way is a quiet victory. It teaches your mind a new reflex. Understand first, respond later. Key takeaway. Anger is a reflex. Understanding is a choice. When you shift from reaction to empathy, you don't just avoid conflict, you regain power over your own mind. If someone irritates you today, try this. Don't respond right away. Instead, ask, what might this person be carrying that I can't see? You don't have to forgive. But if you understand, you've already taken the lead in the emotional game. Lesson 5. See irritating situations as training for your calm. No one likes being interrupted. No one wants to start their day with noise, rudeness, or disrespect. But that's the nature of life. It's full of things you didn't plan for. And each time it happens, you have two choices. 1. React the usual way, with anger, frustration, and a loss of control. 2. Treat it like training. A weight bench for your emotions. Stoicism doesn't promise a kinder world. It teaches you to become stronger, more rational, and more grounded, so you can face life's messiness without losing yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle is the opportunity." Someone behaves rudely? Don't jump to "I've been disrespected." Instead, ask yourself, is this a test of my calm? When others argue, provoke, or try to pull you into conflict, it's not an invitation to react. It's an opportunity to practice not reacting. That's the real training. Every time you stay calm when your temper flares, you grow stronger. Not in muscle, but in your ability to stay in charge of your mind. Think of a gym. You see people lifting weights. But in real life, those annoying moments? They're the weights. And every time you don't get angry, you lift a little more. Emotional strength is invisible, but it defines who you are when everything else falls apart. Stoic practice. Write down 3 recent situations that frustrated you. And instead of labeling them as problems, reframe them. Situation A, patience training. Situation B, endurance training. Situation C, impulse control training. You stop feeling like a victim. You start realizing you're training in real life. Key takeaway. You don't need to avoid uncomfortable moments. You need to use them to sharpen your self-control. Because the truth is, we all face friction. The difference is, you choose your response. Others let emotion choose for them. So the next time you step into a frustrating situation, shift your question. Don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what part of my inner strength is this helping me train? Change the question, change your lens. And once that lens shifts, you're no longer someone who's easily shaken by life's little disruptions. Lesson 6. Don't try to change others, change how you respond. Have you ever thought, if that person weren't so rude, I wouldn't be angry. If my boss were fairer, I'd feel more at ease. If she understood me better, I wouldn't have lost control. That way of thinking sounds reasonable. But in truth, it puts you in a reactive position. You're placing your peace and happiness in someone else's hands. And when you do that, you're always waiting. Waiting for them to change. Waiting for them to be kinder. Waiting for them to act the right way. But here's the truth. They're not obligated to live by your expectations. You can't control other people, no matter how justified, logical, or well-intentioned you are. And that's when one of Stoicism's most powerful principles comes into play. Change how you respond, instead of trying to change others. Seneca once wrote, "The more you try to control others, the less free you become. The more you learn to control yourself, the more power you gain." You can choose to be someone constantly stressed because others won't change. Or you can become someone unmoved by outside behavior. You can't stop the rain. But you can bring a jacket. You can't make traffic disappear. But you can put on a great podcast and make the most of it. Someone else's insensitivity or unfairness is their issue. Your response is what defines who you are. A mature person doesn't need the world to act right in order to feel okay. They feel okay because they've built consistent, grounded ways to respond, no matter the chaos. Stoic practice. For the next 3 days, choose one person who often triggers you emotionally. Each time they act in a way you dislike. Pause. Instead of reacting on autopilot, ask yourself, can I control their behavior? If not, what do I have control over right now? What response would make me feel proud of myself? Write your answers. Repeat them often. You're reprogramming yourself. From being a victim of others' behavior to being the author of your own reactions. Key takeaway. Others might not change. Situations may not be ideal. But you can always respond from a better version of yourself. And once you do that, there's no need to control anyone. Because you've already mastered the one thing that truly matters, yourself. If you're feeling tense because someone won't change, shift your focus inward. Ask, can I change my perspective, my reaction, or the energy I bring into this moment? That's the first step toward freedom. Not from the world, but from the mental prison of needing it to bend to your will. Lesson 7. Accept reality instead of resisting it. You want sunshine, but the skies open up and it rains. You want others to behave reasonably, but they act irrationally. You've carefully planned everything, only for it all to unravel. And then you get angry. Not because things are truly terrible, but because they didn't go the way you wanted. Most of the stress in life doesn't come from the circumstances themselves. It comes from resisting those circumstances. You want it to be different. You think it should be another way. You complain. You push back. You wrestle with it in your mind. But reality doesn't care about your expectations. This is where Stoicism offers a powerful and liberating truth. Reality has no obligation to please you. But you always get to choose how you live with it. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens that disturbs us, it's how we think about what happens." You can't control the rain, but you can bring an umbrella. You can't stop traffic, but you can listen to a good podcast and breathe. You can't control someone's poor behavior, but you can choose not to let it rob you of your calm. Fighting reality only drains you further. Acceptance isn't surrender. Acceptance is the foundation of self-control. When you accept that things won't always go your way, you feel lighter. You stop pounding the steering wheel during traffic. Stop brooding when plans change. Stop losing an entire day over one minor mishap. Instead, you become the person who adjusts their internal state to align with the present moment. That is real freedom. Stoic practice. Each morning, before your day begins, remind yourself, today might not be perfect. Someone might irritate me. Plans might change. I don't control that. But I do control me. Then write down 3 things you can't control today. And 3 things you can. This simple habit will recenter you around what truly matters daily. Key takeaway: the world isn't working against you. It's simply doing what it does. And when you stop fighting reality, you reclaim the enormous energy you used to waste on resistance and frustration. Action prompt: next time something doesn't go your way, instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" ask, "How can I respond in a way that makes me proud of who I am?" That's the moment you stop letting circumstances lead you and start becoming the one who leads yourself. Lesson 8. Pause before reacting. Power lies in the pause. There's a small space, just a few seconds, between what happens and how you respond. And in that space lies the full strength of a man's character. Most people live in reflex mode. Someone says something rude, instant reaction. A bit of criticism, instant anger. A text goes unanswered, irritation, assumptions, emotional spiral. But a Stoic doesn't live that way. He doesn't react emotionally, he responds by choice. And that choice begins with a moment of stillness before action. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "I can choose not to react immediately. I can observe. I can wait. And in that waiting, I reclaim control." That pause is where you step out of victim mode. You're no longer dragged by emotions, situations, or other people's behavior. You're holding the reins, instead of letting instinct run you off a cliff. Many mistake emotional control for suppression. But it's not. Control means knowing you're about to react and choosing a better way. It's when someone raises their voice and you keep yours steady. It's when you're insulted and you don't snap back. It's when you allow the emotion to rise, but don't let it take the wheel. Sounds simple. But living it, that's an art. Stoic practice. Start training your pause muscle by silently counting 1, 2, 3 in your head before saying anything sharp. Pick one situation during your day where you tend to react quickly. E.g., being interrupted, criticized, or receiving unexpected news. Next time it happens, instead of reacting, just take a breath. Stay silent for a few seconds. Not because you're weak, but because you're in command of yourself. Write down how it felt afterward. You'll notice. Pausing for 3 seconds can save you from 3 days of regret. Key takeaway: the weak need to act immediately to feel in control. The strong choose to pause to show they are. That silence between emotion and action. That's where you become a different kind of man. Next time you're about to speak from emotion, pause. Just 1 to 2 seconds. Then ask yourself, will I be proud of this reaction? If not, you still have time to shift it. And sometimes, not reacting at all is the most powerful response you can choose. Lesson 9. Peace isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. Many people live in a constant state of waiting. Waiting for their job to stabilize, then they'll feel at peace. Waiting for their partner to be more understanding, then things will be easier. Waiting for life to be less stressful, then they'll finally breathe. But here's something important to understand. Peace isn't a future destination. It's a habit, a skill, a choice you train every single day. You don't just have inner calm. You build it. Just like a healthy body isn't something you magically get. It's the result of consistent training. Your mind is no different. Stoicism doesn't tell you that life will always feel okay. It teaches you how to stay grounded, even when things aren't. Marcus Aurelius didn't write in his journal because he had spare time. He wrote because he needed to remind himself daily what he chose to believe, how he chose to live, and what he committed to stand by. And you need those reminders too. If you truly want to become a man of depth, resilience, and self-mastery in a world full of noise. Imagine this. You wake up and let your emotions lead the way. You're pulled by news headlines, work stress, unread messages, that feeling of being behind. You live reactively. You wait for things to calm down so you can feel calm. But you can do it differently. You can create peace through practice. The habit of steady breathing. The habit of naming your emotions. The habit of pausing 1 second before reacting. The habit of not letting someone else's opinion shake your inner state. And if you practice this long enough, peace won't be some distant ideal. It'll become part of your character. Your energy. Who you are. Stoic practice. Choose one consistent time each day, just 5 minutes, to train your peace muscle. You can. Write down one thing that easily throws you off balance. Note one way you choose to respond differently if it happened again. Or simply breathe deeply 10 times and observe where your mind is rushing. Do this regularly and you'll begin to see. Calmness isn't luck. It's something you craft with discipline, not perfect conditions. Key takeaway. Peace doesn't come when everything outside is quiet. It comes when you've learned to stay centered, no matter the noise around you. You're not going to find peace somewhere out there. You shape it. You train it. You live it through small, intentional actions and mindful mornings. Don't ask, how can I finally feel at peace? Ask, how did I train peace in my mind today? That simple question, repeated daily, will change your entire presence. Lesson 10, Small Habits That Strengthen Your Calm, Meditation, Deep Breathing, Gratitude. Calm doesn't come from one big decision. It comes from small habits, repeated daily, until they become part of who you are. A calm man isn't calm because his life is free of storms. He's calm because he's trained his inner stability through quiet actions, silent choices, and habits no one else sees. Stoicism teaches you to master your emotions. But you can't do that by simply thinking positive or trying to suppress how you feel. You need a foundation, and that foundation is built through habits. 1. Meditation, reset the mind. You don't need to meditate for an hour or chant mantras. Just 3 to 5 minutes a day, sit still, observe your breath, and bring your mind back to balance. The Stoics saw this as the mental space needed to observe rather than react. When you meditate, you're not erasing your thoughts, you're learning how not to be ruled by them. A man who can sit still and hear his own breath won't be easily shaken by drama, temptation, or chaos. 2. Deep breathing, break the reaction loop. When you're triggered, your body shifts into fight or flight mode. Fast breathing. Racing heart. Adrenaline rush. Pause and take 5 deep breaths, slow inhale, hold, long exhale. And watch something shift. Within 30 seconds, your mind changes states. This is the quickest way to reboot your rational mind and step out of emotional autopilot, back into control. 3. Gratitude, break the victim mentality. One reason we often lose our temper is because we forget what we already have. When you practice gratitude, you remind your mind, I'm not lacking, I'm not powerless, I'm not under threat. Each morning or evening, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Someone who truly gets you. The simple ability to breathe this morning. A skill you're slowly mastering. Gratitude doesn't make you passive. It makes you steady because you're no longer driven by a need to control everything. Combine all 3, build calm proactively. You don't need to do all of them at once. But if you commit just 10 to 15 minutes each day to one of these habits, you're actively creating a calmer version of yourself. No one has to see it. You don't need to announce it. But over time, you'll feel the shift, especially when life doesn't go your way. Stoic practice. Pick one time each day, morning or evening. Take 10 deep breaths. Write down one thing you're grateful for. Sit still for 3 minutes, no phone, no distractions. Do this for 7 days. Track how your emotions, reactions, and mindset shift. After a week, you'll realize peace isn't something you chase, it's something you build. Key takeaway. People who lose their temper easily often lack a system to stabilize their mind. People who remain calm, it's not just their nature. They've built it. through quiet, repeated practice when no one was watching. Today, don't let your emotions drive your actions. Start a small habit, breathe, write, or meditate. And in that small step, you're building a foundation that no storm of anger can break. Lesson 11. Choose empathy over anger. Have you ever felt angry because someone treated you poorly? A harsh word, a careless act, a disrespectful tone. And your first thought was, why would they treat me like that? Then the emotion rises, hurt, resentment, or rush to react. That response is natural. But Stoicism doesn't ask you to act on what's natural. It asks you to live with intention, even in the heat of emotion. And at the deepest level of that self-mastery lies empathy. Empathy doesn't mean letting things slide. It doesn't mean staying silent while someone disrespects you. And it's not weakness. Empathy means you are strong enough not to lose yourself, even when others lose control. You are grounded enough to see the pain behind their behavior. You are steady enough to ask, what might this person be carrying that makes them act this way? Marcus Aurelius wrote, people do wrong not because they want to, but because they think it's right, even if that belief is shaped by ignorance or pain. That thought opens a door. No one in a clear state of mind chooses to harm others. They do it because they're hurting. Because they carry wounds you don't see. Because they were never taught how to choose differently. So what can you choose? You can choose to stay calm. You can choose to set boundaries without shouting. You can choose to step back, not to surrender, but to protect your inner command. Because a truly strong man doesn't react impulsively. He doesn't seek revenge. He seeks understanding, so he doesn't get pulled into unconscious chaos. Stoic practice. For the next 7 days, when someone upsets you, ask this one question. Where might they be hurting? You don't need to forgive. You don't need to reconcile. Just understand, so your response doesn't come from your own unhealed place, but from the clarity you're building every day. Write down how it felt after choosing understanding over anger. You'll see, empathy doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger than any outburst ever could. Key takeaway. When you choose to understand someone, it's not because they deserve it. It's because you've decided not to trade your peace for anyone. Empathy is a conscious decision, an advanced skill, and the clearest proof that you're in control of yourself. Choose to understand before you choose to react. Choose to protect your calm instead of throwing it away just to be right. Choose to be the kind of man who keeps his composure, even in conflict. You can't control the world. You can't control what others say. You can't control the chaos outside. But you can always control how you respond. That's where true strength begins. Not in power. Not in arguments. Not in winning or losing. But in the ability to master yourself. And remember this. Anger doesn't make you stronger. Calm is the real superpower. A superpower you can train, starting today. If you're ready to live with intention, rather than be led by reaction, drop one word in the comments, stoic. If you felt this video speaks to the path you're on, subscribe to the channel now. Because every week, we'll go deeper into the mindset of self-mastery, emotional discipline, and a way of living that's as steady as a mountain. In a world full of noise and change, this isn't just a philosophy. It's a way of life. For men who want to become the best version of themselves. Thank you for walking this journey with me. This isn't the end. It's the beginning.